What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another live stream here at 6.0 Bros. And you guys know the drill if you've been coming around to these. Here we're going to answer all of your Powerstroke question builds and like following a lot of the builds that you guys have going on and hearing some of the updates. So, as always, guys, as the live stream gets going, we'll kind of pick a background topic to resort to when things are kind of on the calm side in the chat. And I do look forward to hearing. I know some of you guys commented. I've got some comments I gotta catch up on here from the last couple days of people giving me updates on their builds. So, going to be reaching back out to people here very shortly, probably after the live stream. Looking for about an hour and a half for the live stream this evening. As you guys are filtering in, don't forget to hit that like button. As always, I do appreciate all of your support. Get in the live chat and join in the conversation. That's what really makes these a lot of fun. What do you guys have going on with your builds? What do you want to build? And where's your truck at now? So we do kind of everything from pretty wild stuff to relatively mild builds as well. So hope everyone had a good weekend. It's obviously the closing of the weekend here, as we kind of normally do. But good background topic. Let's go with suspension upgrades. I think suspension upgrades is kind of a different topic. We don't talk about a lot in the suspension department. And when I do, I tend to really focus on towing upgrades. I don't focus a whole lot on just aesthetic stuff. Although, which is kind of funny because my 6-liter is pretty much only aesthetic suspension upgrades. So something I probably should talk a little bit more about. Anyway, as we get more people in here, again, guys, we're up to 8 people. Don't forget to hit that like button and get in the live chat. Really kind of talk about what's going on with your builds here. I think narrowing down the suspension stuff, expensive lift kits versus cheap ones. Like Rough Country has some pretty affordable stuff. I'll pull one of their pages up here to look at stuff. Versus, there's a lot of expensive ones out there. There's Icon. Carly's pretty. Carly's another one that's pretty expensive and popular. So I'm going to probably pull those 3 up in the background and just kind of start talking about some of those things. I'll say this. It is really, really hard to beat the value that is Rough Country on a lot of these kind of builds, because you do get a lot of quality for what you're getting. Are they maybe as expensive as some of the other stuff out there? No. But truthfully, I really don't think there's a big difference. I plan to at some point compare the difference in Rough Country coil springs versus like Icon. Like I'm going to get a dual rated Icon spring for my truck. And I do want to compare the difference between that Icon and a Rough Country on my 6.7, just because I think it'll be interesting. And we'll kind of track all the suspension upgrades that truck gets and some of the comparison and ride quality, what makes a difference, what doesn't make a difference. Because I do think a lot of stuff doesn't make near the difference that people kind of tell us. But for the older stuff, like the leaf spring stuff, I really don't think there's a major difference at all, to be honest. I love the Rough Country lift that's on my 6-liter. We are going to increase it. I am going to go to a 4-inch lift on that truck just because it'll work a little bit better with the wheel and tire combo I have rolling. Plus, it'll look funnier going down the drag strip as well. So, Skyjacker. You don't hear much about Skyjacker these days. What's up, Rich? How are you doing, man? Skyjacker is another one. We'll pull their website up in here in the background. I do think Skyjacker makes a pretty good lift kit, truthfully. I think a lot of people kind of forget about them. I think they're still a good name. I just don't think they're necessarily... I think what happened with some of these more... Because Skyjacker, they're a little more expensive than Rough Country, but they're not like crazy expensive like some of the Carly kits that are out there or some of the Icon stuff you can purchase. Some of those full lift kits get so expensive. I think Skyjacker has kind of gotten lost in between the two. Not quite to the same extent. Like They're not as budget as a Rough Country, or at least not considered as budget as a Rough Country, but at the same time, not in the same conversation as some of the more expensive ones that they've become like annoyingly popular in the last couple of years. Oh, I will say Skyjacker's website can use a little love. It's not the world's most user-friendly setup here, as I'm trying to. Skyjacker might be out of it if we can't get their website to work correctly. But truthfully, I think I put Skyjacker and Rough Country in the same boat, personally. So for whatever that's worth, but I do kind of look at them very, very similar from one another. I think Rough Country is winning the advertisement war, and I think they're probably getting more stuff out to more people. Jerry, welcome to the live stream, man. FabTech, I have nothing against FabTech. I'm not like their biggest fan, which is funny because I actually do run a FabTech steering stabilizer on my 6-liter, so 99 through 04 stuff. I think FabTech is good overall. I think it's another one that has kind of fallen in recent years to, they don't even make, oh, nope, there it is. I was going to say, do they really not make a leaf spring kit? Which they might not, come to think of it. Performance shocks. Oh, they are expensive. Okay, no, they do have kits. They just don't have pictures for any of their kits. Definitely on the pricier side. I'd have a hard time with some of what they got going on. Those are just shocks. Where's a full? There's just a lot of shocks. I don't know how much in the way of real lift kits they have as I'm looking through stuff, which is kind of goofy for them. I don't think FabTech is a company to really have in the conversation today. They used to be considered a little bit more of a premium company. Like when I first got into it, BDS is a company I used to really like. I still do like them. I have nothing against BDS now. They have nice stuff. They have some very expensive stuff too, but they used to have some reasonable things as well. Pull them up here. But I will say this, I think so much time and energy is spent on trying to figure out like what's the greatest. And I just don't think there's anything like super crazy about any of them. Like, so here's a good comparison. So BDS has a 4-inch lift kit for the 99 through 04s, and it is almost $1,400. The Rough Country, which I would say I do think they're very similar in quality. The Rough Country 4-inch, once I find it again, you can get a 4-inch with all new leaf springs, front and rear leaf springs, for $1,100. You can get just a 6-inch lift kit, which I know is a little more, but for $1,000. Oh, here's the 4-inch lift, $900. So there's like a $400 difference there. I have a hard time saying that you're getting $400 of value between those two companies. Let's see if Carly makes anything for the early trucks. There's so many options out there for later stuff now that and a lot of them are very similar. But for the older stuff, there just isn't a ton of older stuff out there. So Carly only starts in 05 for the Super Duties, which we'll visit that here in a little bit. Let's see if Icon has some early Super Duty stuff. And they do. Oof. Is it expensive? I will say this is really where the difference is in premium. I would say Icon is a premium company, but you're going to spend for a 4-inch lift. I'm looking at the specifics of it. Looks like we got a drop arm bracket, new pitman arm. So track bar drop bracket to keep the steering geometry right. Little over $2,300. So kind of again a tough sell there in my opinion to from what you have with a 4-inch lift from Rough Country. You're teetering on like 3 times the cost. That's a lot. It's a big step up. Those of you guys just joining the conversation, just a heads up, our background topic when the chat isn't supplying us with enough to keep going, get in this live chat, guys. That'll kind of steer a lot of the conversation. And we're talking suspension upgrades for these trucks, though when the live chat isn't busy. And please, if you have questions about anything, but especially the suspension stuff, let me know if there's something you want me to kind of comment on, my opinion or my experience with certain things. So what I do want to say, as far as the early trucks, we're going to get into the later trucks here in a minute. The early trucks, I really think you have 2 options to consider with leaf springs. I think you have Rough Country, which again, dollar for dollar, I think Rough Country is a good company. They have good products. There's nothing wrong with any of their stuff. And then I think you have the conversation of Icon, which again is a very premium company. Hard to really argue with their stuff. Now, just to make sure I have the same kit, I will say that little over $2,300 doesn't get you shocks, whereas the Rough Country 4-inch lift gets you all 4 shocks for your truck. So it's a pretty big difference there. That is definitely something to consider in your purchase, because you're not going to be done buying stuff for that Icon setup. You're still going to have other stuff to turn around and buy. Now, let's get into some of the newer trucks. And then we're going to kind of switch from just lifting to towing while driving a lifted truck, which I have a little bit of information on. The full car, those are coilover conversions, which we've gotten into. So here is a Icon lift for 05 through 16. Oddly enough, the years I'm looking at, this is a 2.5-inch lift. It's $1,270. Now that is 4 Icon shocks. Their stage 2 is $2,000, a little over $2,000. That comes with fronts with reservoirs on them. And they just keep getting more expensive. I do struggle with the value of this whole setup of doing a full Carly lift on these trucks, because I don't think you really get a lot of value from them. I messed my screen up here. There we go. Whew. Got a little scared. Ryan, what's up? Can I send you a video and you tell me what you think the issue is? Yes, you can. And I'm going to send... That is my Instagram. And that is the easiest place to actually send me stuff for me to review. I do have a Facebook Messenger page as well. That works, but that is the easiest place. And I started looking at getting into maybe a Discord. I think I want to open a Discord community up for stuff like this, where you guys can post videos and we can kind of navigate it ourselves, keep it a good, clean community, keep it people helping others, not a bunch of nonsense. So yeah, but that's my Instagram. If you send it over there, and honestly, if you send it while the live stream's going, I will listen to it now and see if we can kind of solve your problem while you got me right here face to face. So if you can send it right now, Ryan, I will take a look at it while we're doing the live stream and see if we can't fix this, or at least get you started in a direction of what's going on. While I wait for his video, pull up my Instagram actually on my phone here. messages. That way I'm ready for it. But anyway, like I was saying, let's change vehicles over here on the Rough Country website. I'm going to compare because these guys are really between Carly, Icon, Skyjacker is going to be more of the same stuff. I'm going to actually lose their page. BDS though, BDS and Rough Country, I consider it about the same boat. Icon, Carly, again, same boat, but they're kind of the two of the cheaper ones, then two of the more premium ones that people are going to consider. So we'll move up to the 16s, which honestly, they're all very similar after 05. There's some changes, don't get me wrong. But more than not, it's about the same stuff. It did not recommend products. Let's see if this does it. Hey, Rough Country has their own airbag now. So they have a 1.5-inch level, which you shouldn't need to mess with any of your steering stuff, for $250. It's a good price. Then they have a 3-inch that starts at $750. Let's see if they got into any dual rated springs yet. I'm looking at doing a 1.5 to 2.5 inch on my 6.7, which is still low enough to tow with. They have coilover, which we talked about last time. I forget who, but somebody got into coilover suspension upgrades. Rough Country's definitely got some neat products out there that I can appreciate. Oh, and I think I just found the running boards for my truck. Though I do wish they sat just a little lower. So with the 6.7, I want like a tremor kind of build with it. And not a lot of people make a tremor. Oop, here we have a request, Ryan. Ryan, you should be good to go, man, if you want to send me something over. Ninja, what's up, man? How are you doing, brother? Always good to have you here, Pat. But Rough Country has a pretty sharp looking kind of tremor-esque running board for the early trucks, which it doesn't, nobody else really makes one right now. So I'm thinking that actually makes me very happy. The live stream coming in clutch, helping me pick out parts. All right. Turn my volume up. I don't know if you guys can hear this. We're trying to see if we can problem solve what's going on with this truck. Ryan, that is tough to say. What's actually wrong? There's nothing apparent from the video that kind of jumps out at me. But here's what you really need to do. This could be cheap to fix. This could be expensive to fix. It could be kind of a multitude of problems. That's what's really hard. So the first thing I would do is I'd verify that you don't have a compression issue. What that means is you want to make sure all your valves are sealing up. You want to make sure that you don't have like piston ring issues. How you would do this without actually compression testing each cylinder is you would pull your starter. You undo the starter wire. It sits over on the passenger side, and you take that and pop that on your, I don't know why I got a green tinge from my when I put my arm up there. It didn't like something I did. Let me make an adjustment. Anyway, you'd put that on the positive terminal. I wouldn't do more than like 5 seconds. In 5 seconds, you're going to know if the truck is actually going to do this. And basically, you want a nice, clean, like, to the sound of it trying to start. When you get a lull, when it goes and then starts back up, that means there's a compression issue to some extent. That could be a rocker arm that's broken, could be a bent push rod giving you a hard time. It could be a bottom end issue as well. In that situation, at $1,500, unless you want the project, I wouldn't recommend buying it. But if you're looking for a steal, what you really need to do is one, tell them to stop spraying crap in it to try to start it when it's not going to start. It's going to be hard on the truck. There's no reason to do that. You need some kind of monitor to start trying to diagnose it. And it could be a couple easy things, man. It could be a bad sensor, which you won't. I mean, if it's a bad sensor, you unplug the ICP, and if it starts right then, he's going to want more than $1,500 if you make the truck start while he's there, because now he knows a problem. Pat, we are talking lifts. That is something we were just, once I kind of talked to Ryan here, we're going to get back into some of like the budget to more expensive lifts. We talked about the early trucks, and now we're kind of getting ready to start talking about some of the less expensive trucks up next. So stay tuned for that, but that'll definitely be a good conversation. Where was I? So from there, Ryan, you need to turn around. You need to get some kind of monitor. It doesn't need to be expensive. It can be Torque Pro on your phone. It can be Forescan on your phone. It can be Forescan on your computer. If you have a laptop, you buy the plug. I have a link in a lot of my videos that show you exactly what you need to buy. It is an affiliate link, but all that goes back into the channel. What you can do from there is you need to measure FICM voltage, FICM sync, cam sync. I have this all in a no start video that I did as well. So it's not like this information's lost once the live stream's gone. But so you need FICM sync, cam sync, FICM voltage. You want your battery voltage up there as well. You need ICP measured in voltage. Because and then you can look up the conversion online for how many. It's like 0.9 volts you need to start the truck. And then you want your IPR duty cycle. A lot of times what happens in these trucks is people are trying to start them and there's some kind of leak or a bad pump. Bad pumps, early style trucks, high pressure oil leak, later style pumps. The ICP sensor can fail in just about any of them, although it is more predominant an early issue than necessarily a later issue. With that information, a lot of times you're able to figure out what's going on with the truck and you can start kind of diagnosing it. What the 6 liters notorious for, high pressure oil leaks, man. I don't know. Let me see if there's any signs. It's a tough one based on, no, he's got the ambulance. Oh no, that's not the ambulance grill. It's an aftermarket grill. It looks like it has not moved in a while, but it looks to be a nice truck. Looks like he also has the wrong oil filter cap on that. Yeah, it's hard to say from the video. If you're looking for the project, I mean, so let's talk oil pressure, because that's probably somewhere along what your issue is in something like this. It could be sync, but I think normally syncs, if you try long enough, will eventually click and you can start the truck, but you might get long cranks, whereas this really isn't starting. It sounds a little like a slow start too, so maybe a fresh set of batteries is in order as well. because I have a feeling he's probably tried cranking it a lot. But I think this is an oil related issue. Again, I can't be certain without like getting there and looking at it, because it could be injectors if they're really bad. But you want some kind of scan tool to start figuring out what's going on with the truck before you purchase it, because $1,500 sounds like a really good price, unless you find out that you have like, I should until you find out you need $8,000 in stuff. You know, if it turns out to be injectors, well, you're probably, I haven't looked at injectors in a while, but you're definitely over $1,000 for injectors. You know, and maybe it's the high pressure oil pump. Well, there's another $1,000, give or take. You know, maybe the fuel pump's bad too. That's another one. Well, there's no sensor for the fuel pump, so you have to manually test that. You can hook a gauge up and test it. But I would not be buying a truck no matter how cheap it is without really having an idea of what the problem is. I do think you're probably somewhere along the lines of a high pressure oil system, whether that be, realistically, it could be as simple as it looks like he has the wrong cap on it. It looks like he has a Wix cap, which if he has a Wix filter, perfectly acceptable, not an issue. But if he tried putting an OEM Ford filter in that Wix cap, that can cause issues, and that can cause the truck to not build ICP, which is your oil pressure, and you need at least 500 PSI to fire the injectors. 500 to 550. Mongoose, what's up, my man? How are you doing? So I think, and here's what's really tough is from those pictures, I can't tell if it's a late 04 or an early 04. And that makes a big difference. And then there's the in-between like hybrids. There's a handful of them that have old style oil pumps and new style oil rails, which Ford technically called fuel rails on those. But regardless, you take the most problematic parts from each setup and put them into one. It is actually my favorite setup. I wish my truck had that setup, but it does not. But yeah, no, that would be my preference. If I had to pick one, that is the setup I would want on my truck. So if it is an early style pump with early style rails, typically the oil rails and standpipes don't leak. They're normally really, really good. You probably have a failed pump in that regard. And that's probably where I would start, unless the O-ring it could be an IPR valve as well, which is a little harder to test. But I would probably, one that sat like this guy's is sat with an issue. Sometimes the IPRs, really why they fail is because the high pressure oil pump was failing too and pushed crap through it, which is predominantly a later style pump issue, but it can happen on the early pumps. Pat has a good point here. One way that you can see if it's building any, at least, so some people call it base oil pressure, low pressure oil, but basically trying to crank it with the oil cap out, it'll tell you if oil is filling up in the in that reservoir there, because that actually feeds it's not exactly feeding, but you get to the high pressure oil pump from that area. So, which is why when I do like oil cooler jobs, I actually fill through the oil filter, because it'll actually help prime your high pressure oil pump, and it pushes a lot of the air out. And you normally can get a pretty fast start if you do at least one of your containers of oil down the oil filter in those. I think that's probably your route, but I wouldn't necessarily buy that until I had an idea of what's going on. If you have the later style rails with the older oil pump, that's really hard, because now you have an oil pump that was more problematic and tend to fail more often, with the oil rails that definitely probably need standpipes and dummy plugs put in to get it started again. Let's see what else here. That's where I would start. So I would definitely, I would take that and I would get some kind of monitor and go look at that. Because I think that's probably going to be your best. Let me see if I can't find my video quick about no starts. I know it's not one of the first videos, which is crap because it's actually got a lot of good information in it. But I took that break for so long and I'm still rebuilding. 1 second here. This is definitely where I would kind of, here we go. Let me share this. This is where I would start, Ryan, with this video here. And that's what I would take. I would take that information and look at that truck again before buying it. Let's see here. Do you know how much the dummy plug and head gasket job would be? So you don't need to do head gaskets with dummy plugs. Dummy plugs and standpipes on these trucks, you don't need to remove the head at all. Now, there's some debate on which product to use. Let me just look up, see if I can find OEM. So ProSource Diesel has standpipes and dummy plug kit for $200. So $200, it's a couple. I have the oil rail upgrade and valve cover gasket upgrades. So to do those, you're talking $200 plus your time to do those, which isn't bad. You might have, like, if you're not like really hustling to get it done, 4 or 5 hours, depending on how comfortable you are with some of that stuff. Lube up your oil, your O-rings on those two parts before inserting them, by the way. I don't care what you lube them with. It can be oil. Some people used to like to use Vaseline, whatever, but put some oil on those O-rings before putting them in, or you will be redoing the job in the near future. But you do not need to do head gaskets with those. That is a completely different thing. Now, doing head gaskets on a 6-liter, that is a tougher price to nail down. You're probably talking 10, honestly, probably around 10 grand to have a good head gasket job done. You might be able to get away a little cheaper in the 6 to 7 range, but you might be like, I don't know that I would recommend doing that because so much stuff is coming off the truck. It's a good time to kind of, put a fresh water pump in there. Don't buy one of the bulletproof diesel billet ones. That's dumb. Put a regular. Gates used to make good stuff. An OEM one's perfectly acceptable. You don't need to get all this fancy stuff. I like the plastic impeller ones because when they fail, they don't take out my front cover. You get a billet impeller fail on one of these, you're going to be doing a whole new front cover as well, which is a job nobody wants to deal with. Jerry, good to have you, man. 4 o'clock does come real early, man. Have a good one, brother. I wish you well, and I hope maybe we can get you on a earlier one in the future. But thanks for your support, dude. So yeah, I wouldn't do heads with just standpipes and dummy plugs. I'd do that in my driveway and call it a night. And I'm going to switch to the next one, Ryan, because I just saw you kind of tossed another question down below, but I'll come back to you here in just a moment. What should be done maintenance-wise to keep a 6.0 reliable? Oil change every 5,000 miles. I really don't care what oil people are using. Some people go nuts about that. But definitely go ahead and get oil done regularly with an OEM filter. Flush your transmission. Don't flush. Do a drain and fill in your transmission and a filter replacement every like 50,000 miles as well, because they're good transmissions. They'll last a long time, even under some decent power. But you definitely want to replace those. The next thing I would recommend doing is if you haven't already in the last like 70,000, 75,000 miles, go replace the fluid in your axles. That's another big one that gets missed. If you're running Ford Gold, um, definitely go ahead and do some maintenance on that. It's a good coolant. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by Nolan's on chat going nuts down here, and it kept distracting me a little bit. But the coolant, if it's Ford Gold, it's okay to run Ford Gold. It is a maintenance heavy coolant. I wouldn't run it for more than 25,000 miles without doing some kind of maintenance. There's an additive you can put in it. I would probably drain and fill. I don't like the additive idea. You could flush it out and go your cooling system and go ahead and do a CAT ECL 1 rated coolant, which is I think the premium option to do. Those are the biggest things. If you do those things, you want to keep an eye on some other odd things. What about big maintenance item engine wise? Freddie, I'll answer your question here in a moment. Damien, I'm going to kind of get through some of these next questions, and then I'm going to come back to you about what big maintenance items for engine wise here once we get down, just because I see you asked it. So I'm going to come back to you here in just a moment. Ryan, I do agree. 10 is crazy. Now, I'll say this. At 10, you should have a brand new set of heads that are O-ringed. You can rebuild heads. That is something that can be done, but it gets kind of expensive to do it. Ryan, where I'm getting that price is really kind of from experience, doing the job, upgrading cylinder heads, and kind of what I had into it. Even north of 10 isn't like super crazy on something like this. Again, that's if you're doing, I would definitely get upgraded heads. Powerstroke Products has a great track record. There's Choate Engineering. Most of you guys know that Kill Devil and I are kind of at odds right now over my current truck and the predicament that's in. So, but I will say their iron heads in the past were pretty good. That's a whole other issue about that problem, which many of you already know about. I don't want to get back into it. Just irritates me. But Ryan, it is a big job, and I would be leery of people saying they can do it for $4,000 or $5,000, something like that. I would be a little cautious. I'm not saying there aren't some guys out there that are cutting people slack on labor and stuff like that, but you are probably going to be around that like $8,000 mark, maybe more, depending on what all you're doing. But that's the cost of studs, the cost of gaskets. It's not a bad idea to consider maybe doing lifters while you're in there. I would definitely recommend the shorter push rods. Get the updated push rods. But yeah, that's definitely part of it. If you get lifters, if you're going to do lifters, it's definitely going to be in that $10,000 mark. How far would I push stock head bolts? Anything over stock and including stock, I would be preparing to have heads done at some point because it will happen. An 800 horsepower reliable truck is, Ryan, if that's your goal, honestly, that I'm going to keep saying it, 10, maybe 12 in that build. You could price out an engine. 800 horsepower isn't like wildly hard to make happen anymore on a 6-liter. There was a time that was a very hard goal to do, but right now it really isn't. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot of wear and tear depending on how you size your turbo. What you're really going to have an issue with is the fact of it's not so much the engine build itself as at 800 horsepower, you're going to need a transmission. And transmission builds on these trucks are expensive. You can chalk up another like 8-ish in there as well. Again, this is ballpark. This isn't like looking up every figure. Shops are going to be different. But you can probably pretty reliably state you're going to have another $8,000 in it. You're going to need a fuel system. You definitely don't need like the world's wildest engine build to reliably make 800. What sucks from in the cost equation of that is that you're going to need to have a lot of supporting mods. So again, built transmission, you're going to be 8 to 10 grand there. Fuel system pretty reasonable, but you're probably going to have another 2 grand there, between regulated return, your installation of this stuff if you're not doing it yourself. You'll need a pump to support that. You'll need injectors. They're definitely going to be over 2 grand to support 800. At least anything that I would recommend. That's also before you do a turbo, because you're going to want to go non-VGT or compounds at that point. From a budget standpoint, a non-VGT is probably your better bet. Like a 369 probably puts you in the ballpark. Yeah, that's going to be kind of expensive. Nolan, I'm going to ignore your 10,000 horsepower question. Oh, 1,000 horsepower with a tune. No, it cannot. A stock 6-liter. If you're babying the throttle at 1,000 horsepower on a stock transmission, then maybe. But if you're using a 1,000 horsepower truck, your stock transmission ain't gonna last long. Anything? I'm not a big Duralast fan. Never flush your trans, bro. I already said that. I don't know why you wouldn't change your diff fluid. I didn't say flush it, if that's what you're referring to. Damien, back to a real question here. Big maintenance items engine wise. There really isn't anything major you can do outside just the regular stuff. Fuel filters, oil filter, oil changes, the coolant we talked about, servicing your transmission, doing a drain of the transmission fluid, getting a new filter in there. I do like the deep dish pans. Mag High Tech, BD Diesel makes one. I'm sure there's a million others out there. But getting that big, thick aluminum pan, they'll also let you put the later style filter in because the 08 filter is a better filter for a lot of it. But doing those main maintenance items is going to be what keeps your truck on the road for a long time. Why not flush a transmission? So typically why you don't want to flush a transmission is sometimes you can actually cause transmission issues. As the clutches kind of wear and the material wears out and then you flush it, sometimes you can actually flush additional material out, causing some slippage in there. That can kind of be an issue for you. So yeah, don't typically flush a transmission. Especially an older transmission that's never had it done. Mongoose, my man. Yeah, Nolan, I'm gonna just talk to you for a hot second here, man. I've only kind of been seeing some of your side chats and stuff. Like, respectfully, if you don't like the channel, like, just roll out, dude. I'm here to help these people that have questions and are trying to learn stuff. Maybe you know more. Judging from some of your comments, I don't think you do. Or you're just a really bad listener. Whatever it is, I don't really care. But like, please stop spamming the chat. There's people trying to learn stuff here and have real questions going through stuff. I don't know if you're having a bad day or whatever, but calm down a little bit, bud. Get in the chat and have good conversation with people. I'm all for that. But I mean, holy crap, you're just spamming the chat and you're taking away from some of it. So yeah, Damien, ignore him because there's no reason to not empty your diff fluid and treat the diff fluid because it loses lubricity. Condensation gets in there and that mixes in. You don't want water in with that. That's going to be a problem. So it is okay to clean your diff fluid. Let it drain out, get a fresh seal on that diff cover, and make sure that your gears have what they need to. There's a lot. I know this can happen, but I've actually, in like normal applications, it is so rare to see a differential fail with somebody that's maintaining it. All the diffs that I've seen fail are trucks that have never had their diff fluid changed. I will say this, I'm not great at it. I need to be better. My 6-liter, 200,000 miles without it. Also had like water up coming over the hood once, driving through something I shouldn't have been driving through. And 7.3 PCM problems. I know a little bit about them, not as much as I probably should, but I know a little bit. But most of the diff failures I've seen were on trucks that note that the fluid wasn't maintained. They were beating the crap out of it. If you're hard on it, just replace it. Truthfully, the cost of a diff fluid change isn't that expensive, and it's good, cheap insurance. Are they very durable parts? Absolutely. But I mean, I would say like at least every 75,000 miles, I would probably go ahead and change it out. People will have difference of opinion, but changing that out at 75,000 miles for the little bit of cost that it is, I mean, you might be $100 tops, but it's probably even less, if I had to guess. Shield, what's your question about the 7.3 PCM problem that you got going on? Let's see if we can't kind of help you there. I know a lot about gas engines and everything, but my diesel knowledge is pretty limited. A lot of times there are differences between the two, especially when you get into modifications and tuning and stuff like that. But I will say this, 9 times out of 10, there aren't major differences. Do your basic maintenance stuff, and the cars are going to treat you well for a long time. The 6-liter does have some caveats to that. The charging system is weak in those. Almost all of them require like an aftermarket upgrade to kind of keep things kind of going well. So it's not perfect, but all in all, it's not majorly different. And a lot of people think just because you get in there, and that's kind of made worse by people in the community being like, it's a diesel, you don't know anything about maintaining this thing. It's really not that different. I see you said that you own a BMW, so you already know what it's like. But those are the biggest things to do. I would recommend a healthy set of gauges. Get something to monitor fuel pressure, so you're at no less than 45 psi. That will protect your injectors. 45 psi is the minimum number for fuel pressure at any point, whether that truck is floored or whether it's idling. 45 or more, and it kind of acts as a shock absorber inside of the injector to prevent failure. So it's very, very similar. I mean, good on you for seeking the information to make sure. I do also have a video out there about monitors. That they are important in this 6-liter. So if your oil cooler is going to fail in the near future, a monitor is really going to be able to help you prevent those failures, because you'll be able to keep tabs on it and semi-regularly do a check to see how things are going. Truck has a problem where running it'll shut off and will only restart when I wait for the start light comes back on when the fuel pump the code is. Let's see here. P0603. I'm just kind of looking up a few things real quick. Well, I haven't ever seen a failed cam keep alive memory self-test. But let's quick pull up a little thing here. I would I'm trying to just think about what's going on with your truck here, Shield. And if it's sitting and I turn the key. So, Shields, I would do a couple things here. The first thing I would do is I would start monitoring the truck. The 7, 3, and 6 liter have some similarities in the fuel injection department. The injectors themselves, grossly different. But in how that system functions, it's the same kind of Huey injection system. I would start looking at stuff because I'd say I'd find a way to monitor fuel pressure. I'd be looking at your high pressure oil and, so ICP, IPR values, and I would monitor them closely along with because that code in and of itself shouldn't be shutting your truck off. Something else has to be shutting your truck off. I would also start checking all my fuses and relays, but I would start by monitoring that truck. This sounds almost like a bad sensor, which like a bad ICP sensor can cause some weird stuff, or a short somewhere. I would consider double checking for some shorts. I'm sure somebody talks about common short spots in a 7.3 online, but I think that more looks at what's going on with your stuff. Any tuners you've recently installed? I have heard of guys frying ECMs on the 7.3s with the tuners by not undoing batteries. Let's see here. Damien, that stinks. You got to replace your clutch in the BMW, or do you have a manual 6 liter? Joe, how are you doing, man? This is Jared, the better brother. Some say their favorite brother between Josh and I. Damien, I have 2 early 90s, kind of an odd mix with my 6.0 and IDIs. Doug, how are you doing, man? I would say the manual 6 liters are not super common. They're out there. I've never driven one of the manual trucks. Shields, it sounds like you have a short somewhere, which is they're a pain to find. I don't have a lot of help there, but I would start looking for any blown fuses that would cause a no communication. The other thing to consider trying is find maybe if you can get your hands on another PCM for it to plug in and see if some of these issues don't go away with a new PCM. I'm not I'm gonna see how expensive the PCMs are. Full Force Diesel has replacement PCMs for $525. Man, that's salty. Let's see what eBay has. And eBay, you got to be a little careful with, but they have a good return policy. If it's not what they say it is. That's a repair service, early 99. That's almost $400. There's several repair services for under $200, but I don't know that you actually have a confirmed bad one. So I'd be hesitant to want to spend $200, but it looks like a lot of the replacements are going for $500-ish already. So that's a tough one. I would see if you couldn't plug another one in. I want to say you might have a PCM issue. I see what you're saying where you've checked fuses, relays, the harness was replaced. So it looks like you've done a lot of it. I'm thinking there's a good chance that you might just have a PCM that needs to be replaced, which does suck. But and I'd be looking to verify that. But typically, like communication issues, it sounds like you've gone through the other stuff I would recommend. You might be at that part where you might need to consider replacing the PCM itself. I'd see if you can't find one that you can test first. Maybe a junkyard or something like that might have a cheap one for you, but you could try one of these repair services. There's, Lord knows, there's plenty out there because I'm looking at all of them right now. But it is the 7.3 PCM looks like it's hitting that part where it is starting to get more expensive because there's not as many out there. Early 6-liter PCMs are expensive too, because I'm just looking at them now. $350 for an early PCM. The Reman ones are like $600-700. Let's see here. I lost where I was. Joe, all good, man. No worries. Yeah, Shields, it sounds like something's kicking it off. If you've replaced those other things, if you're very confident there's not a short somewhere, I want to say you might have a faulty computer. Damien, do you have is that an IDI? Or am I thinking about Doug's setup there? Damien, 05-250, good year. Drake, how you doing, man? Welcome to the channel. Took PCM out, cracked it open to check the inside. I did find a little corrosion on a couple of the chips. Yeah. Shields, I would consider trying to send it off, see if somebody can go through it or at least test it out for you, or just buying another one and seeing if that works. Mongoose, why do you want to sell your truck? Doug, cool. I done all that quick job. Next, matter both. Doug, all good, man. This is about all the Powerstroke stuff out here, brother. 05 350 crew cab long bed single rear wheel. Mongoose, where are you at? You're in California, aren't you? That's right. I was gonna say, depending on what you wanted, I know a guy looking for it, but I don't see him wanting to go out to California for it. Well, just lower the lift. You don't need a whole new truck unless you want a new truck. I can understand wanting one of the new trucks. Like I love my 16. Mongoose, what would that cost for you to get your truck all the way over? I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm the opposite side of the country. That does mean I'm going to have to take a lift off a truck because he does not have use for an 8-inch lifted truck. You think that's all? You think it'd only be $1,000 to bring that over here? I mean, like in fuel costs, like I would have thought worse. Especially with an 8-inch lifted truck. Mongoose, I honestly wouldn't have a clue. 205,000 miles. It sounds clean. Our market, that's probably that's tough. I don't know. a clean '05, that setup, there's probably some people that would pay 15 for it if it's super clean. 12 if it's not. But it would be a hard sell, mainly because you have the lift there. That person does not need a lift that high, so he'd be factoring that into final cost. But if someone's looking for an 8-inch lift, that would be cool. But you could always sell that lift. You have a nice lift on there, and just go to a more factory setup. Excuse me. Shields check fuses. Might be number 33 if blown. Unplug the fuel bowl here. Mia, what's up, man? How are you doing? I like your idea. This is one of the coolest things also about this community that we're building here is, truthfully, like, as people with more experience and seeing things I haven't seen, getting like, I just love that those things actually really kind of work out and people are able to help each other. It's really cool from my perspective, and this is why I do plan in the near future to start a Discord for everybody. I'll probably pull the same moderators in as well for that, if they're interested in it anyway. But I do plan in the near future to kind of have a Discord set up for the community to come in, and since it'll be us, we'll be able to kind of keep it clean and not a bunch of back and forth nonsense or people distracting from our community. So I think that's something that'll be cool. Truck food rally, hammer down. I like it. I like it a lot. I don't know where we do it, but I'm all in. I'm completely all in for a truck food rally. Where was I? Fuel from SC to Arizona, roughly 400. Something about California to here just seems like it should be more expensive in fuel than $1,000. I don't know why. I think because I picture it being so far away. Oh yeah, sometimes you'll get fuse panel corrosion in 6 liters too. The truck's too nice to lower it. Mongoose, have you ever sent me a picture of that thing on Instagram? I can't remember. A bad cam sensor will cause it to die also. Yeah, but a bad cam sensor wouldn't cause a communication issue. A bad cam sensor would cause a no start, but you should still have communication with the PCM. It's good to hear it, brother. Point I'd be lucky to get 10 minutes of runtime, but with being colder, I'd let it run and drive wouldn't die, so I feel like he has something to do with it, won't handle when it's hot out. That could just be expanding of different parts in the PCM still gets warm, like it doesn't stay cool. With what you say you've done, I really probably would be looking more at that PCM and having it checked out. As they're getting older, it's just something that unfortunately happens. Maybe 7.3 PCMs definitely go out, unfortunately, but that's where I'd be looking at making sure, and there'd be somebody that could test it. In your situation, I'd probably be looking at buying a backup and seeing if that does it. Daniel, I used to love the forums when I first got into diesels. Powerstroke.org is where I used to comment all the time, where I learned a ton of stuff about the truck, and they used to be really good. I don't know if they're still as popular. I don't have the time to stay on them as often as I used to, but they used to really be great for looking up stuff. On an AirDog with sump, would you run a 2-port sump with the return or the factory return line? Doug, so I run a 2-port sump, so my return is built into the sump. However, I don't think it, from my opinion, it doesn't really matter. I think it looks super clean that way, but either way works perfectly fine. From a performance standpoint, you're not gaining or losing anything with it. Nolan, why are you getting so worked up, bud? We're gonna put Nolan on a 5-minute timeout. Um, I know a fair amount about diesels. I'm certainly no tech, and I certainly have to ask people that know more other questions. But I don't know why you're so worked up, bud. Let's see, where was I? Here, uh, yeah, Doug. So either one, honestly, perfectly fine. You're not going to be able to tell a difference in performance. The main benefit of a sump has more to do with being able to get that bottom amount of fuel and not running it dry through a pickup tube, or if your pickup tube breaks. That's the real benefit of a sump. Other than that, it really doesn't matter. So the factory return is perfectly fine. I don't think there's any major cost difference in having a sump with either setup, so I think you're fine really with whatever. Uh, so sorry, I was distracted by Nolan's nonsense. Uh, Make sure defense tube is clear. Yes, on IG. I checked all fuses and relay rated the reason it would die. Fuel bowl has it unplugged for years already. Had that problem, tried replacing cab fuse box that had a little corrosion. Shield, you kind of got a tough one, man. And hopefully someone has some good input here. Like, if you figure it out, please make sure to come back and let us know. Either in commenting in a random video or or another live stream as you figure it out. My bet's still probably I'd go PCM at this point. You've done so much already that I think that's kind of your most likely thing to do. But I will say this: I love that it's still at it, and he's still got more ideas. He's awesome. A scanner definitely would be helpful in trying to figure things out more. The hard part for me is that he's losing that communication. I like the cleanest of the two lines to the sump. I have the bean single line though that's been. Yeah, Doug, I don't know that I'd turn around, like, unless you can find somebody that'll buy your current sump off you. I'd probably just run it and keep the factory return. Um, I'm trying to think if there's any situation that I would care about having a bigger return line that you could run on something like that. I really can't think of anything. I would probably, my preference is the two lines going in, but I would say in your situation I'd probably run what you have, and I wouldn't think much of it. I mean, outside it would act up more, but when it's cold outside, it's not. And I don't trust to drive it long enough to test the theory. If the weight starts light and fuel, yeah, that's fair. Shield, I definitely wouldn't take it on any long trips anywhere. Maybe around the neighborhood a little bit. My buddy has 5 Super Dudes with the 7.3, and his will get no starts or they will die. It's usually the cam sensor. Yeah, cam sensors definitely go out pretty regularly. Mongoose, you do have a good looking truck, man. I do like it. That's funny. Doug, you're welcome, man. No worries. Oh, that's right. You sent it under. Abe. That's where I have the other picture. No? Yep, yeah, that's it. You sent it under Abe originally. Guys, I will be right back. We're going to keep going, but I have to quick run to the bathroom. So as people come in, please let them know I'm going to come right back. Hopefully, Nonsense Nolan has calmed down a little bit and doesn't spam the chat. But we got at least we have 3 moderators in here, so they'll put a stop to that. But I just need 2 minutes. I'll be right back. All right, guys. Sorry about that. Thank you all for staying and hanging out. Probably shouldn't have. Sometimes to keep my throat not from being too sore, I drink too much water while I'm hanging out with you guys. Got a cough drop in here. All right. Doug, that's kind of what I was thinking about with doing a Discord page. Is it would be like a place for people to kind of post their videos, post pictures of their vehicles and what's going. You didn't even wash your hands. Yes, I did. I had to run upstairs. So that's kind of part of what I was thinking about with the Discord page is it'd be a place for people to post pictures of their trucks. If you guys want, I can start posting pictures of people's trucks on like the Instagram page. I'd be cool with that if you guys wanted to. Just send them over and I'll start posting stuff. That's fine. I don't post a lot over there, so I'm always looking for something to start just being better about that. But I do want to take this and kind of continue to have an outlet for people and to keep growing it in a different way. This will kind of be my main place, but with the Discord stuff, it would kind of allow, as people have questions, another place for people to kind of talk through things and what's going on. So that's what I'm thinking right now. I haven't like officially started that, but I do plan to do that in the near future. Oh, the rear bucket seats, man. Those were always cool. You don't see many of them. But where the rear seats match pretty much the front ones, I think the frame is different, like the mounting frame, but other than that, they match identically. They're cool. Back in November, I ran about 2 miles from my house to Starbucks and back, ran the Snap-on scanner to record engine data, and it looked good. Don't do Instagram. I wish I didn't either. Um, I love posting pictures of what I'm working on. Yeah, I mean, so the Discord page is something that is kind of like I started looking into. Does anyone else have a platform? Like, I do have a Facebook page for the channel, and people are able to post there. So that is one thing. You can follow um, the Facebook link on the channel, and we can do stuff there. But I was thinking just a place that's kind of a little more set up for chatting than what maybe Facebook is. Facebook's okay. I don't have any major issues with it, but it isn't like essentially trying to recreate the forum environment that used to be there, but with a group of people that aren't going to be goofballs and starting issues, and kind of another place for people that might not jump on YouTube all the time or don't feel like jumping on to look at videos, but might kind of have a few comments on Discord here and there. It would probably be pretty slow for a while, but essentially trying to take the live chat from these and moving it to there for when we're not doing live streams. And that'd be a great place to post about like the food truck meeting that Hammerdown wants to do, because I will definitely be attending something like that. What's this? Sorry, just had to send a funny message away. Um, truck gang. Sorry, somebody at work. Let's see here. The mongoose. Oh, he's just saying hi. Hey, mongoose, have a good one, man. You take care, brother. Be safe. Truck gang makes me think of that one guy on uh is it Ginger Billy? That's who it is. He's hilarious. He had one of my absolute favorite COVID videos ever. Yeah, Ginger Billy's funny. That truck gang video he did was hilarious. He's a funny dude. But I do think it'd be cool to get like a Discord page or group started, and kind of just have something from there. Group chat, that's all fun and games. I'd actually start using the app that someone made me download on my phone forever ago. But I also have it on my computer. Get the engine number off your PCM and try some salvage jars. I've had good luck with used PCM over remands if you can find one. Have you had Ninja? Have you had an issue with remans, or just you were able to find better deals on the other stuff? Shields, thanks for your service, man. Should probably turn this down. Sorry, a friend of mine sent me a couple text messages here. I have to respond to. It's funny. All right. Well, guys, we're probably going to be kind of closing this down here. If there's a couple extra comments to come in the chat, uh, Joe Martin, well, that's perfect timing, man. I've been looking at an 06 250. You have a good one, man. 06 250 for a while with 150 on it. Got 373 gears. That's standard for the 6 liter. And if I was here's what's hard with saying you're going to run 35s. Are you going to keep a relatively light wheel with those 35s? So I'm trying. So I've run a couple different. Right now I have 35 12 and a halfs on my truck with 20-inch 20 by 10 wheels. It's a very heavy setup, like factory stocks. So if you were going to run the same wheel and a mild tire, is it 285 75? Like if say you have an 18-inch wheel, I think this is the size I used to run. I think I used to run 285 75 18s on my 6 liter. I was able to get 17 like with a good tune, 175 stock nozzles and a Power Max turbo. I was able to get 17 around town. I never took that setup on the highway. Now that was me trying to get decent fuel economy. I wasn't driving slow, but I wasn't like romping on it all over the place. I did that test over about a week, and there's some fairly short trips in there. I went to my house to the gym. I think my longest trip that week was 15 minutes, and a lot of them were less than that. So you can get decent fuel economy with that setup. What I will say is when you're towing with that setup is it kind of sucks because you end up in a weird spot where you're winding out one gear, but you're way too far down in your RPM to hit your next gear up. So driving at reasonable highway speeds can be a bit of a pain in the butt with that setup. So something to consider. I think a 35, like if you're trying to keep a factory gear ratio on that, I think like a 410 is kind of the sweet spot. It'll keep you more in a factory area. a 430 and 35s is as big as I would go, and I don't know that I'd like a 430, but I would consider it at least in that setup. But I will say that is drivable, that is towable as well. I towed 13,000 pounds with a similar setup, a bigger turbo, which makes the gearing issue worse, up and down the East Coast. So it's definitely something you can do without a doubt. But there can be some frustrating hurdles in some of those trips at highway speeds, that you can kind of be lugging the engine down or winding out a gear, one or the other, to be comfortable. So anyway, guys, we're going to call the live stream. Thank you all for tuning in. We will be back next week with another one. Look for 2 videos to drop this coming week as well. Stay tuned for those. Thank you, everybody. If you have more questions, please don't forget, you can get in the post-video chat, just on there. Drop comments. I'm happy to respond to them. Like I said, I have a few I need to respond to tonight already. Thank you, guys. I will see you next time. I hope everybody has a good week.